thank you for your stamina, for being here for event 14. We're going to make it the highest energy one you've had so far. And I'm delighted to be in conversation with you.
Thank you.
We just had a great starting conversation about Cognizant as well. And firstly, I'm blown away by the scale of what you said. I think 330,000 employees.
350,000
350,000, okay, and adding. So huge impact that you have globally. One of the things I wanted to start the conversation with was that in the UK, our central priority is, as the theme of the summit says, AI impact. And the scale of that is reliant on the scale and speed of AI adoption. And so I'm interested to kick us off, given the scale of what you see across the world, what are some of the barriers you're seeing or challenges you're seeing in AI adoption in terms of either technology, time to value, culture, or any other aspects that determine whether we can go fast on our mission or not?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's my pleasure to be having this conversation. To your question on AI adoption, it really stuns me. AI is a technology that was, became relevant just a couple of years back and coming into mainstream now. And everybody is expecting that to already produce results on the business end of things, right? And I think the expectation I think is a little too soon. Yes, we have had a year where there has been incredible amount of investment on the infrastructure side, and that needs to translate and trickle down onto the business side of things. The adoption, in some sense, is slower, and the reason it is slower is because applying AI into an enterprise is a complex affair. Any software, for that matter, implementation of any software into an enterprise is a complex affair. It takes you have various functions which needs to come together. You have various systems which needs to come together. You have to have seamless data which needs to be available, all of which is easier said than done, right? So that's one whole set of complexity that comes into play. The second thing is preparedness of the organization in terms of understanding of AI, training on AI, upskilling on AI is the second thing which is extremely important. The third one is, of course, leadership, oversight, governance, and the whole stuff. So it's a lot more complicated than people think. It's not like you drop AI onto enterprise and then it automatically becomes self-aware or starts kicking in. It really doesn't work like that. So it's a lot of org change management. It's a lot of systems change management. So there is an immense amount of effort that goes behind making something like this work. Everybody is working towards it, but it will take some time before it really becomes real.
Interesting. And there's this J curve people talk about, which is you have to keep investing, and the time to value is sort of requires a bit of patience to get to the other side. So it's Friday afternoon. And so you've got to give us some optimism about successes as well. So what are instances where you're seeing organizational adoption of AI go well? What are the ingredients? What are the lessons that we can all learn in terms of the things that we're focused on?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing is choice of use cases. Where do you want to implement AI? We have to understand that we are actually not putting in place a deterministic but a probabilistic system. Deterministic is the one where you have clearly defined the rules of the game, saying that if A equal to B, then this is what will happen. In AI, it's a probabilistic system. So when you're putting a probabilistic system in place, you really want to look for use cases which does not have to be 100% accurate to start with. It's a lot more difficult to get that right. For example, payroll, you can't go wrong with a cent on payroll, right? So that's probably not the best place to start. But you can take use cases which can actually work on a probabilistic space, and then you can actually implement. So there's a lot of companies which are doing it right. We ourselves are actually in the process of adopting AI for our own internal operations, and we are seeing the upsides of it coming through. So there is absolutely a lot of positives that will actually happen, and the J curve that you were talking about will also materialize.
In other contexts where we deal with probabilistic systems or uncertainty, one of the best assurances against it is the quality of skills, people to be able to work through that uncertainty and make human decisions. Related to that, a sense of ultimate trust in where you can sort of take your foot off a little bit from the pedal and where you have to push on much more. So how do you think about both the skills question, the trust question as determinants of adoption?
So that's a good question here. So trust, of course, is something that has been that has been a topic of debate for a while from the time we are looking at AI at an enterprise or a scale level, right? Cognizant, for example, is one of the first companies to set up a position which is called the Chief Responsible AI Officer. What that does is actually ensures that the organization is putting in governance and the guardrails required to implement AI. It gives us as stakeholders a sense of confidence that you have an organization within the company which is responsible for establishing a trust framework and which is responsible for establishing a governance and the guardrails. So that's one part of it, right? You have to have that in place. As far as skills is concerned, Kanishka, my view is a little bit more broader. We need to look at not just upskilling within the organization, we also need to look at upskilling outside the organization. And we are working with your team on some of the initiatives within UK, and we are very proud of being associated with that as well. So, it's always been a worry for me that the industry is moving at a rapid pace, right? The developments are happening at such a rapid pace. We ourselves sometimes are like surprised the next day morning. We get up and turn on the news and like, what's the latest that's happening, right? Imagine the education system that is actually churning out, the next generation of workforce. Not all of those education establishment has the window of view that we have into the world that is coming up. Some of them are in the forefront of technology, but most of them are not. Maybe 90% of them are not. So what do we do? So it's up to companies like us and the industry to actually turn around and create a bridge with the education institutions to make sure that we are providing them a window of view of what is coming up, and also help them calibrate their curriculum, help them with educating the students in the classes. We are actually doing that. We are working with about 20 different colleges in India right now, where we have gone back to the education institutions, calibrated the syllabus, and actually providing our own staff to impart subject matter knowledge. I think that is very important, because otherwise you will have a workforce emerging out of universities and colleges which are quite out of step with what is happening, especially because the pace at which this thing is moving, right? So that's my view on the skills.
Really interesting, and I also do want to just take a moment to thank you and Cognizant for the work that you're doing with us. We've got this big mission. We want to train 10 million people across the UK in foundational AI skills by 2030. Time as the clock is running, and so the contribution that you're making to that mission, and not just in the workforce, but earlier in terms of apprenticeships and younger people as well, is absolutely critical. And just on that broader question, you have exposure to both India in a very material way, to the UK, and much more globally. Do you think we have some great strengths in the UK in terms of research intensity? There's some fantastic university representatives here as well on the delegation with us, and also in terms of experience we've had on regulation as well, from a kind of understanding of innovation within regulation. India has this incredible bursting sense of talent, as well as scale of delivery, capability, and capacity. Where do you see the biggest overlapping opportunities for the UK and India together in driving the shared mission on AI adoption and impact?
No, absolutely. So what you talked about is bang on, right? When it comes to UK, you guys have excellence in policy making, you have excellence in research, you have excellence in education, like some of the world's best universities are in UK. When you look at India, and I'm so proud about this, that, we have a 6 million tech workforce in this country. 6 million tech workforce. I really need that to sit in, because that makes us the largest tech workforce in the world. And what does that do? In today's emerging era, when the world is moving towards AI, when you're looking for AI-based solutions, the place to go to will be India. This will be the AI office of the world. I have no question about it. So the opportunity we have to take the power of this AI office of the world and to power the UK businesses, to help your government, to help the education institutions, every space that we can do, there is an amazing opportunity for us to collaborate. And I'm very excited about this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to this really materializing.
I'm going to give a bulk of my power to you and say, if there's one thing you wanted me or similar AI and tech ministers in countries comparable to do that would really shift the trajectory on AI adoption, how are you going to exercise that influence and get things done?
Thank you. I would love to have that kind of influence. So I have a view on this, Kanishka. One is the job of the policymakers is to regulate and deregulate both. I think both are equally important, and I've heard you speak on this very passionately. Regulation is extremely important when it comes to safety, especially children, women, all of those aspects, extremely important that we regulate safety online. So I know I have heard you speak about it, and and that's one important part of regulation, right? The deregulation is the part which allows us to enable businesses to move faster, right? And there are many very regulated industries, in the world around us, whether it's insurance, whether it's banking, etc. All of these are regulated for good reasons, but there is always an opportunity for us to look at what are the areas that should be deregulated so that we can actually enable these businesses to move faster. Yesterday, Prime Minister Modi talked about Manav Vision. I'm not sure how many of you heard about it, but I thought it was brilliant. This is exactly what I expect government to do, is to come forward and put forth a vision which enables the rest of the country. And for those of you who haven't heard of Manav, you should Google. M is for morale, and A is for accountability, N for national, A for accessibility, and V for verifiability. And I just remember that because it just struck me just like that. It is so well crafted, the whole thought behind it, right? And those kind of steps are what makes us more more decisive in the way we move and more agile in the way we move in this space. So yeah, but thank you for your views on regulation and deregulation, because I really concur with the views that you have as well.
No, I appreciate that. And the way we think about it is very much, as you said, the public policy conversation sometimes is very crude in saying either you are pro-regulation or you're pro-innovation. The thing we have actually found is again and again, it is not that there's a sort of regulation or innovation trade-off, but the quality of regulation is the determinant of the pace and scale and quality of innovation. There are so many areas in which, by virtue of being able to regulate and set standards early, we've spurred on an entire market for innovation as well. And as you say, it's only by being robust when you see something wrong by children's safety or by the online experience of women and girls. If you're robust on those and say this is not in line with our values, we will act on it, you buy yourself the legitimacy to conduct experiments in other places where you say, actually, we'll take our foot off a little bit to be able to spur on economic upside there as well. This has been great. I don't know if we've got more time for a couple of questions as well. If you're
Can I ask a question?
You should, yeah. Of course you can.
I want to hear your views on the potential of collaboration between UK and India, especially in the space of technology. You are the AI minister and for safety as well, and love to hear your views.
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount. One of the big picture things I feel in the last few days I've experienced is, India and the UK don't have a sort of full fat large language model frontier lab in our countries. We've got a significant amount of the Gemini team at DeepMind in London, and you've got great talent engaged with the labs as well, but we don't have a full frontier lab. And so the strategic question has been, what do you do in that context to still have leverage in what is increasingly an axis of economic as well as hard material power? India has taken a path of saying we want to lean in on efficient small language models, on vernacular adaptation and distillation, make things real for people in India by doing that. What we have done in part is say that we have amazing strengths still in the frontier of research. And so we want to lean in on world models. We want to lean in on new paradigms right at the frontier. And we want to lean in on areas like AI for science, drug discovery, materials discovery. And so there's this actually incredibly complementary set of trajectories where your efficiency of model distributed across the UK can have huge economic as well as public services benefits. And our intensity of R&D focus, particularly in the private sector context, where private R&D in the UK is still materially higher than public, that with the possibility of distribution to make a real difference to people's lives in the UK is huge. So at the kind of model layer, I think the complementarity is very strong. The chip layer, we have a great heritage. Arm, founded in Cambridge, now has a huge chip design talent base in Bengaluru as well. And what we can do, again, by marrying the potential of Indian talent, the intensity and heritage of R&D in the UK, I think is really special. And at the heart of it, the thing I feel very open about is we can have this conversation because the UK and India are in a position of total trust. We're one of the first ones out of the gates on the FTA, and others have followed. And so when you have that history of trust, of shared values, and a complementarity from a strategic point of view, I think the potential is vast.
Fantastic. History of trust and shared values. I love that. One last question for you. What's your key takeaways from this 5 days of AI Summit? How did you feel about it? Tell all of us how you felt about it. What's the energy? What's your key takeaway?
What's your energy is a great question right now. So I've had about 4 hours of sleep every night since I arrived in India at 4 a.m. on Monday morning. But for some reason, I don't feel that at all, right? I was saying to one of the staff, I've been yawning, but I mentally feel so energetic because the sense of boundless energy and enthusiasm we have right across every part of this country when it comes to technology is a huge source of inspiration for the UK, a huge source of inspiration for me personally and how I think about my own job as well. So on your specific question of how I'm feeling full of energy and also not just sort of hyped up energy, but very specific focus on where the UK and India can carry our energy and make a difference to our countries.
Perfect. Fantastic. It's been a good conversation, Kanishka.
Great. Lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.